Welcome back to Sports Talk. Time to sit down with a very special guest that we normally chat with this time of year. Mike Ventola, the outstanding voice of the Reading Phillies and our Eastern League expert. He always brings us some great news on the Phillies, the Nationals, the Mets, the Yankees, and some of the other teams in the RCN viewing area. Mike, nice to see you again. How are you enjoying your summer so far?
Certainly, it's been a lot of fun, and thank you so much for having me. So excited to be back.
Well, we'll start with the Phillies, the team you're most experienced with. And last year we were asking you about all these players on the way up. Now they're at the Philadelphia level. So what's the Reading team been like? That you still have some prospects. I know you're going to have one big prospect that just came aboard. But how's the season been overall for the Reading Phillies?
You know, from a win-loss standpoint, it's probably been a little bit of a disappointment just because, you know, coming into the season, the Fightin Phil's rotation was really supposed to be one of the best in the entire system, but Ranger Suarez had his struggles early. Jojo Romero had his struggles early. Franklin Kilome has still been very much struggling here throughout the 2018 season. So, but you know, Ranger Suarez, though, he's now found himself up with the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, and deservedly so. To me, was kind of a replication of what Brandon Liebrandt had been doing with the Iron Pigs throughout his time here in 2018. So, but Jojo Romero's really come on strong, a good lefty with a sharp breaking ball that I'm very excited about, and I think Philly fans will get a chance to be really excited about. For Franklin Kilome, he's been, like I said, having his struggles, been very inconsistent. You know, he'll have a start where he goes 7 innings, strikes out 5 or 6, but then he'll go 5 or 6 and give up 5-6 runs. So very inconsistent in that aspect. But from a position player standpoint, though, you know, for the Fightin Phils, they're going to get a big boost with Adam Hazley. You know, last year's former first-round draft pick, getting him into the lineup, a lefty that, though, only hit 5 home runs with the Clearwater Threshers, but I think he'll get a chance to find his power stroke in a hitter-friendly ballpark in Reading. So, but Zach Green, to me, has really taken over. You know, a guy that's hitting just shy of 300, tied for second in the Eastern League in home runs. Fell a little short in the home run derby in Trenton when the All-Star game in the Eastern League took place. So, but you know, right now I think this second half of the season is going to be a lot of excitement, and for fans here in the Lehigh Valley, when the and you know, when the viewers that get a chance to watch this, if they ever make a trek to Reading, Pennsylvania before the season ends, you'll see a lot of entertaining guys.
Well, we certainly encourage them to do so. Hazley is a first baseman, which is interesting because you have Carlos Santana at the big league level, Rhys Hoskins. A lot of people think his long-term future is as a first baseman. Can Hazley play another position, or, you know, the way that Gabe Kapler's been managing it, you don't almost have traditional positions anymore. You're moving people all over the place, especially at the left side of the diamond. But first base it's kind of tough to move out. You can't move him to left because Hoskins is there, and again, Santana's under contract for the next few years. So tell us a little bit about Hazley, and is it possible he could move to a different position?
You know, I think in his time in Reading, he's going to predominantly play in the outfield, and large part is because of Derek Hall, who had just came up from Clearwater a few weeks ago, who actually led the Florida State League in home runs at the time. So, you know, I think when you got a big power left-hitting first baseman like Derek Hall, you want to keep him at first base. And then also with Austin Listy, who is currently leading the organization in hitting. So I think those two are going to be rotating a bit at first base. So I think for Hazley, you could see him play in center field, could see him play in any of the corner outfield spots. I know Cornelius Randolph has been playing left field, and that's going to be his spot moving forward. So for Hazley, I think he's a guy that's going to play center field, play right field, and going to get a chance to bat leadoff too for the Fightin Phils, which is really exciting. So you know, we'll see how he continues to do during his time here in Reading.
There's a number of position players for the Fightin Phils that have been really hitting the ball well. Tomcha, Green, Hernandez, the catcher, I think is close to or at double digits in home runs. Is that kind of the trend? We're seeing that all across baseball, that there's more power hitters, it's more swing for the fences. Are these guys legitimate power hitters, or is it just kind of the trend that we're used to seeing 5, 6, 7 guys on an individual team that have double-digit home runs? You
know, for Damick Tomcha, you mentioned him just because, you know, Iron Pigs fans here in the Lehigh Valley have gotten a real strong chance to see him. He's had his struggles, but as of late, he's been finding his way. And, you know, for Tomcha, when he was in Reading, had his power stroke a little bit, but I think he's more of a gapper to gapper, a doubles guy that'll occasionally show the pop here and there a little bit. So, you know, but you mentioned about Zach Green. When Zach Green was getting drafted and got taken in the 3rd round a few years ago, his raw power is off the charts, especially to opposite field. So I think for Zach Green, you're starting to see a guy that is coming into his own, and he's healthy for a full season for the first time in his entire career, even when he was an All-Star a couple of years ago. So, you know, for him getting his opportunity to show showcase his power on a daily basis. I think he's for real in that aspect. Davey Grullon, who you mentioned, the catcher for the Fightin Phils, won the Eastern League Home Run Derby this year, which is really exciting, especially at Arm & Hammer Park, which is a very pitcher-friendly ballpark. So he got a chance to hit 24 total home runs when you break up the 2 rounds. So, and I think for Davey, he is a guy with some pop. I don't think he's a 25-30 guy, but maybe a guy that could be 18 to 20 on a consistent basis. So, you know, but you are right. The trend is changing now where more power is starting to come into play. I think, you know, the traditional contact, gapper to gapper, may not be as prevalent as it used to be. So, but that's why strikeouts are a lot higher in professional baseball this year than it has been in years past.
Tom Houstick of the Morning Call wrote an article a couple months ago about Jojo Romero, and at the time I think he had 8 pitches in his repertoire, and which was kind of interesting in itself. How's he doing? I know he struggled the first couple months of the season, but how are the pitchers like Romero and Garcia been doing of late?
You know, when you look at Jojo Romero, and Tom's right, he has, you know, a lot of pitches where I think early on he was trying to figure out a way to fit them all in and he'd start, and I think that's why he struggled so much. Fastball command, if you don't have fastball command, a pitcher is never going to get to the major leagues, or a pitcher is never going to, quite frankly, advance from one level to the next. So pitch coach Steve Schrank did a wonderful job in letting him know, say, hey, look, you have all these pitches, and it's great, and you may be able to use them all at one time or another. But when you're out there, you need definitely 2, but you need to command 3 of them at a consistent basis in order to get outs, and he learned that, and that's why he's having so much success as the season's gone on. So when he's gone 6-7 innings, he's actually the only Fightin Phil starter to register over 100 pitch outings multiple times. So, you know, in his last, in one of his previous starts, he threw 113 pitches. He looked like he was on the brink of getting knocked out, but then really pitched well against a Toronto Blue Jays affiliate in New Hampshire that you know, has the likes of a Kevin Biggio and, you know, a Bo Bichette, some legacy players. So, you know, for Romero though, I think it's just him continuing to find that consistency, and, you know, the way the Phillies are constantly bringing guys up, maybe he wears an Iron Pig uniform at some point. So, and then you mentioned about Edgar Garcia, a guy that at 21 years old in his first 30 innings only allowed 2 earned runs. You know, I think what's happening to him is I think the Eastern League kind of caught up to him a little bit, but certainly was well deserving an all-star bid, and I think his second half is going to be a lot stronger just because I think he's learning, and I think he has shown his ability to not only be a 1-inning type pitcher, but a multiple-inning type pitcher, and learning how to mix in his slider a little bit, show that plus fastball that he has. So, especially as a reliever, you can get away with 1 or 2 pitches. So these are guys that I think that are definitely on the fast track to getting up to the big leagues down the line.
All right, before we move on and talk about some of the other teams in the Eastern League, any other prospects within the Phillies organization at Clearwater or in Williamsport that people can keep an eye on over the second half of the year, or even looking ahead to for next year?
I think, to me, a guy is Sixto Sanchez. You know, I think Sixto, who is, you know, the top-rated pitcher in the system for various reasons. I've talked to scouts that envision him to be very Pedro Martinez-like. And, you know, I was about to say, not too shabby, right, Chris? I was about to say. So, you know, I think you look at what Sixto has done. I know he's battled some injury this year, and I know fans in Reading were kind of hopeful that maybe he would have made his way up. But I think he, you know, and this is just speculation, but I think he's going to end up finishing the year in Clearwater just for allowing him to finish on a high note. You know, a guy that can average over 100 miles an hour, some really good secondary pitches as well too. So to me, he's the guy from a pitching standpoint to keep an eye on, because I think that's kind of right now in Philadelphia, outside of Aaron Nola and Jake Arrieta, who are a nice 1-2 punch. They can really are hoping down the line they get that one more starter that can really be the bridge to the other guys in that rotation.
All right, some of the other teams of interest in our coverage area, the Mets and the Yankees, I think their minor league systems might be in completely different state of affairs right now, because the Yankees, there's all these rumors about the trade deadline coming up, and a lot of their prospects could be on the move. The Mets are probably sellers at this point. They have a lot of prospects in the organization, so they're looking to these guys to kind of be the future. So any of the names with the Mets or the Yankees organization have stuck out in your mind so far based on what you've seen?
You know, from what I've seen, you know, I got to look at the Yankees right now just because, you know, this is no longer George Steinbrenner's organization in a sense where it was buying free agents, you know, shipping out the farm system. And one guy that I really enjoyed watching in Trenton this year was a guy by the name of Dylan Tate. a right-hander, a pretty good pitcher who at one point was just over 5 wins, an ERA a little over 3, but 75 strikeouts and 82 plus innings. But the walks, only 20 or so walks in that span. So some really good control. Had some effective outings against the Fightin Phillies when Dylan Tate went head-to-head. So I was really impressed with him. And I think the Yankees right now have been doing a nice job of bringing up young arms. There's not really many hitters that I've seen in Trenton right now that I'm sitting there going, all right, they're going to be up there and could be producing in the major leagues down the line. Jalen Jackson's a guy they got from the Chicago Cubs. Was a very good defensive outfielder, but I don't see much from a bat standpoint. So, and that's where the Yankees' bread and butter is right now, Chris, in regards to the pitching. Haven't seen the Mets yet as much as I would have hoped. Gotta love the Eastern League scheduling to push the Mets coming to Reading or Reading going up to Binghamton in August. But from what I've read, Peter Alonso's a guy that has had some really good power, has been at the top in the hitting stats in the Eastern League. So has had some all-star nods and nominations and things of that nature. So, and then obviously everyone's been excited about Tim Tebow. And I know Tim Tebow has struck out quite a bit, but he's actually starting to find his way a little bit. So, I think right now, if you're a Yankee fan, you're excited about all the arms. If you're a Met fan right now, I think they actually have some position players that could certainly find their way up down into New York. But the Mets right now, they need a little help in every department. So.
And another team, the Nationals, a big year for them. Of course, they're struggling at the big league level. This is the walk year for Bryce Harper, so a lot of emphasis is going to be on whether they can bring him back or not. If they lose him, it's going to be interesting to see what they do because they still have a lot of great pitchers under contract for the next couple of years, but you're losing that big piece, so it'll be interesting to see which direction they go. Which prospects right now for the Nationals, right now in Harrisburg, has caught your eye?
I really liked catcher Taylor Gushu, and obviously catching is so important, not only for so much from handling a pitching staff, but if you can find a catcher that can hit a little bit too, I think that's certainly going to be an added plus. And for Taylor Gushu, who was an all-star this season with Harrisburg, hit 240 but 10 home runs, 40 RBI, which is pretty impressive when you think about how much wear and tear a catcher goes through. So. Especially at F&B Field in Harrisburg, where it can be a little difficult to hit some home runs. He has shown some good power there, ability to drive it from gap to gap. So, I think Harrisburg has got a guy there that, could end up making his way up to Syracuse maybe at some point this year. So, I think Gushu is someone for national fans to really keep their eye on as well, too. So, I was a little disappointed not to see Juan Soto before he got a chance to get called up to the Nationals. So, but I think right now for Washington, their bread and butter, they have, like you said, have so much right now going in the major leagues, and they have some pieces in the minor leagues right now that'll help. But if they do lose Bryce Harper, I don't know who's going to be able to get up there and fulfill that role. Yeah. It could be a situation where I think the Nationals may have to go outside the organization to do their best, whether it's via trade or via free agency, to try to replace a guy like Harper. But to me, I think the Nationals are very much in play on bringing Bryce Harper back.
Yeah, and it's interesting you said about a young catcher coming up because they've looked to improve a lot of different positions, both pitching staff and the infield. You had Trey Turner come by. He's doing great now at shortstop. Soto, you mentioned, he's doing great in left field. Not great on route running, but certainly great hitting at the plate. So it's going to be interesting, obviously, with Bryce Harper to see what happens if they bring him back, if they have to make a trade. They might lose a lot of those prospects and use them to get someone back in return. Any other prospects that have caught your eye in the Eastern League so far?
It's funny because we see the Red Sox quite a bit. And the reason why, a player I'm going to bring up is a guy that, the Red Sox consider as a prospect and a guy that his numbers may not be as exciting, but being a Philadelphia kid, first baseman Josh Ockamy, he's a pretty good power guy. 12 home runs in his short time, just a little shy of 270, but he's young at 22 years old. And I think, for the Red Sox right now, to be honest with you, their system is depleted in a lot of areas because I think they've done so much in trying to really boost up the team up in Boston because they're trying to do what they can to go head-to-head with the New York Yankees right now, where I think the bread and butter of the Red Sox is down in Lowell, is down in Salem. So Portland and Pawtucket have been a little bit bare, but from what I've seen out of Josh Ockamy is a guy with plenty of power, and especially if he could make his way up to Fenway down the line, the pesky pole down the right field line, it could be a very attractive, especially for a left-handed hitter like him. So when I've seen him play the main monster at Hadlock Field, which is their version of the Green Monster, I've seen him play balls off that wall pretty well too. So and defensively, he's not too shabby over there at first base. So been very excited to see him. But I mention him just because I know your viewers kind of tend to see the Red Sox affiliate a lot, but if I have to talk about a guy, it's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., a guy that even before he got hurt, he's been out for a few weeks, hitting over 400. The kid is just like his dad in every way, and if I could best put it in a short statement on what Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is, he's his father with plate discipline.
That's a great statement because he was always a wild swinger. His dad was always a wild swinger.
His dad was the best bad ball hitter in the past 40 years in baseball. I remember him one time, he hit a ball that bounced in front of home plate, and he crushed it for a home run. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Has more plate discipline. May not hit for as much power as his dad, but certainly has some good pop. And a big part of the reason why he's been in Double-A all year is, I mean, he's a third baseman. They want him to make sure he's close to perfect at third before they get a chance to move him up to the higher levels. And then the other legacy players I mentioned, Bo Bichette, very similar to his dad. I don't think hits for as much power, but very aggressive. He's a nitty-gritty ball player. But I got to talk about Kevin Biggio as well, too. So another guy with the New Hampshire Fisher Cats, 19 home runs, a guy that is going to hit well over 20 home runs here in the Eastern League. Kind of the forgotten of the three, but certainly a guy that, you know, has a little characteristics of his dad when his dad obviously played for many, many years. So,
real quick before we let you go, who do you like to win the Eastern League?
Who would I like to, as of right now, the New Hampshire Fisher Cats.
The Fisher Cats?
The Fisher Cats, absolutely. So just because I think they have pretty much everything strong, they'll keep an eye on the Trenton Thunder. If they can find some hitters to go along with that strong pitching staff, then I would throw the Trenton Thunder. But right now, I'm going with the New Hampshire Fisher Cats.
All right.